I'm Mark Seifter.
And I'm Linda Zeiss Palmer.
And this is Arcane Mark.
Hi folks, welcome to Linda's Adventure Shattered Star Part 1, about my Shattered Star campaign. This is another one of the campaigns that I ran for Mark as the only player. We did this one quite a while ago before we moved out here. We were living back in Boston then. And one of the things that we did with this campaign is that every PC in this campaign, whether standard PC or GM PC, was heavily based off of one of our PFS characters. Do you remember why we decided to do that?
Because Shattered Star, your characters are in the Pathfinder Society.
Yeah, but why we decided to use our existing characters rather than making new ones?
Why not? It gives continuity with some of our Pathfinder Society characters, and the characters are in the Society, and they get a special mission from Sheila Highmark, and we were going to apply the credit to the characters that we were playing using the Chronicles.
because we were going to do credit with those. Yeah, that's right.
There's some shaky things about the Chronicles for these, and I don't necessarily recommend applying them to your PFS1 characters because of that, but we did it. They might make you do not family friendly things at PFS games that don't actually apply in the real main AP, because you can use an Iron Stone to get rid of those effects, but you're not allowed to with the Pathfinder Society boots.
Yeah, well, if that was actually still something that was notably relevant by the time I was coming on board, instead of us being in PFS2, I would have reversed that. But
yep. So, be that as it may, these characters are all members of the Pathfinder Society that are also some of the PFS characters that Linda and I played. Mm-hmm. Just like in Skull and Shackles, which you may have seen, we did the same thing. We have 5, in fact, it was based on Shattered Star. We have 5 characters, 3 of which I'm playing and 2 of which Linda's playing. Also, interestingly, I ran Shattered Star as like a playtest game for the Pathfinder playtest at the office. So I used a lot of my memories and things from when Linda ran it. And so I've actually run it more recently than Linda has. But we're going to be talking about Linda's run, because it had all sorts of fun heists and hijinks and like very few actual fights.
Yeah, we kept track in our sort of campaign log of how few creatures that weren't literally evil outsiders or undead the PCs actually killed.
Yep. I can tell you exactly who was sent to jail or killed. Literally, it's an entire list from part 1 through parts 2.
Yeah. It looks like part 3 had some of them too, see?
Oh, yeah. That's true. I see it. I see it. There's
through part 1 through part 3.
Through at least part of part 3.
Yeah, no, it looks like midway through part 3. But at any rate, yeah, we actually bothered to list all that out, because the PCs so often used trickery and heists and other hijinks to get what they needed.
That's right. I think we stopped because there are some evil outsiders that we would have had on our list of things that we killed if we had kept going. Mm-hmm. All right, because evil outsiders undead are fair game.
So let's talk about who the PCs were.
Okay.
So I had 2 characters that I was bringing in here as GM PCs, and since I was bringing in GM PCs, I figured I would play a bard and a cleric. So I had...
your bard was our second to best melee combatant.
Yeah, well, because she is
she's a super selfish bard who doesn't help the party.
Well, she's a dervish dancing bard.
Also known as super selfish.
Pretty straightforward to play. She buffs herself. She attacked, and then her but her spell list was very much geared toward party buffs and getting rid of situational issues. She was a Taldan bard, and this is a character that I created prior to the changes
retcon
to the retcon for how
Sarenrae
is handled in Taldor. So this character was based off of sort of those original ideas of Sarenrae worshippers not necessarily having to deal with discrimination in Taldor, and she was very much of the belief that that was because the Kadira and Sarenrae worshippers had messed it up for everyone else.
Yep.
And she was.
She pretended when she was in Taldor to be a Shallan worshiper.
Yes.
But a lot of people knew that she was really a Sarenrae worshiper.
So that was her basic deal. Then there is Masami, who went by Margaret with people that she didn't really know and trust, a cleric of Tsukio, who was originally from Tianjing and in Tiansha, and she had a backstory that was about sort of leaving her homeland because she had an item that needed to be kept away from Kulabas. And the best way to keep it away from the Kulabas of Kaimuka Wood and other things that you may have seen in Pathfinder Society scenarios was to go far away.
Yep, under a pseudonym. So people could not
Facts
know
that,
she was from
basically
her.
never came up during
In fact,
this
her
adventure,
her family name she never revealed to anyone because that would really indicate that she was the daughter of the keeper of this item. So I don't even remember it.
Yeah, me neither,
Her
honestly.
real family name. She just went by Margaret Smith. Which everyone could tell that this Tan Asabar was just making up a Western name. And that was not her actual name.
So those were the 2 characters that I brought in. How about the 3 that you brought in, Mark?
Well, I brought in 2 characters that some viewers may know. I brought Marquise Cordelia Perseus, who would later become a venture captain, and you may know her from such things as the Adventure card game or Lost Omens Pathfinder Society Guide.
Mm-hmm.
Arian Road Thriceborn, who you may know from a throwaway line in Pathfinder, Lost Omens, the Pathfinder Society Guide, and Memory of Dreams. So the deal with these 3 characters is that Cordelia is a diviner wizard who's Taldan. She's super Taldan, but she really wants to, she really thinks that most of Taldor was on the wrong path, and she was super pro-Utopia. Like, long before the War for the Crown, she was just trying to get Utopia onto the throne, like, the whole time.
So she was definitely happy with the developments that happened far after this campaign.
I added her into War for the Crown as an NPC because
when you GM War for the Crown for us,
yes.
Lucia, you also added in.
I added in Lucia as well because she's also Taldan. So we have, and there was a good repartee with like Cordelia and Lucia as the Taldan characters who were here. She's a Marquise because of a very odd idiosyncrasy of the rules for Pathfinder Society First Edition was that you could get the title of Marquise or Marquis, which is higher ranking than Count or Countess, but not Count or Countess because they just weren't noble titles you could get. Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, I want her to be higher ranking than a Baroness, but Marquise seems like pretty high, but that's the only one I can get.
Yeah, this was in the this was in sort of the boons from the faction book in.
Yep, I was building towards it since I created the characters, so I decided where she was from because like the main difference is that in like the title in the real world is that if you're a Marquis or a Marquise, you're on like a border area that is maybe less stable and it gives you more like martial authority and you may have a larger area, but it's in the hinterlands, whereas the counts are more likely to be in a more established area, but it's going to be smaller and less influential. So I picked a place for her to be from, and that's basically Cordy. She's a Foresight Diviner, which in Pathfinder First Edition, which this campaign was in, means that she can pre-roll before and figure out what her roll is before actually making a check. It's kind of
hanging die.
The hanging die is kind of similar to what diviners could do in Pathfinder Second Edition. This was very important because you got it an absurd number of times per day, and so Cordelia never made an active skill check unless she succeeded. Because she never failed an active skill check because she always had a hanging die first to see if it was going to succeed. And then she only did it if it was definitely going to succeed. Even if it was a skill she wasn't that good at, she never actually failed a check. So, like, if people think that Taldan's... because she likes to say that Taldan's need to be exceptional and get things right. And so she would always succeed at every skill check. Then there was Aryan Road Thriceborn. Aryan Road is a kind of a Fey sorceress with lots of enchantment magics and ridiculously
With high DCs.
high DCs. It's like
magic.
you know that build for the Fey sorceress that has the high DC in your group. This character was built like probably before that one, and with a very, very similar build. And her shtick, she worships the goddess Max the Three, who is like a triple goddess, an eldest of the Fae. She is unstuck in time and sometimes sees the past or the future as if they were the present and gets them confused. Because unlike her goddess, who could see past, present, and future at its normal, Aryan Road's sorceress abilities are not sufficient to distinguish these things. So she's often talking about things in a weird way. Her shtick for PFS is that if she's played like adventures out of order or in a different season that like don't make sense, where like she's like there's a venture captain that like became a traitor and she's killed him, but then he gives her a mission in the next mission. It's like, I thought I killed you yesterday or something like that.
Yeah,
she'll just say odd things that are like from a different time period because she's unstuck in time.
And in this game, it manifested more as Mark kind of guessing what types of things might happen later on, and then having her make comments about that for the future things.
She sometimes gets stuck in the past. Those are
and
easier.
Then getting
easier.
stuck in the past was much easier, where she'd talk about something that happened several adventures ago.
I think in PFS one of the best ones with her was that we wound up playing by accident at a convention, like a scenario where a volcano erupts, and then afterwards a scenario where you go to that volcano before it erupted and it does not erupt. And so Aryan Road just kept having flashbacks. It's like, it's erupting, guys, get out! And like some of the new the players who had not played were just really paranoid because they thought it was going to erupt in this adventure. I knew for sure that it was not. So they're like, we better get resist energy fire. Aryan Road is saying that the volcano is erupting, and it totally didn't erupt.
And the GM knew that you weren't spoiling
that I wasn't spoiling because it didn't happen in that adventure at all. They just were just so worried that it was like, there is a volcano. She's doing this. It's going to erupt. So that's Arya. And then Memory of Dreams is a Khalid barbarian who basically is Khalid half-orc with you're very, very stereotypical, extremely superstitious, don't get your magic on me, especially arcane magic, beast, superstition, barbarian. Who has a lot of the things you might expect from that. He's basically the party's only damage dealer. More or less. Lucia is, that's what I said. Lucia is by far the second most.
Lucia would flank with him.
Other than that, like,
he would wreck face.
Aryan Road will end the fight against things that enchantments can work on. And in fact, she generally assumes that if her enchantment spell doesn't work, that the enemy is immune to enchantments. Or mind affecting. Cordelia has tons of support and like utility spells that are out of combat. Plus usually like some unfair wizard thing she can pull if we absolutely need to, like a rabbit out of the hat. And then Memory does most of the damage with Lucia as a necessary backup, who does a pretty solid amount too and helps buff the party. And then we have Masami as sort of the support healing.
Yeah, support healing, more buffs. She would do things with light. Ultimately, she did things with like light and darkness and confusion and other stuff like that.
Yep. But she also had the Old Madness domain, which meant that she could eventually at higher levels give like a really high buff to skills, attack rolls, and saves, and a really big debuff to the other two, which has its uses for sure. So that was the party. They later add on some more friends to the group.
All of whom were also PCs.
Yes, we got some
PFS.
cohorts with leadership who were other PFS PCs just for fun. But that they would not join the party until later. We also got some familiars on several of the characters.
And you also gathered a menagerie of animals and other similar.
So Memory of Dreams the Barbarian had handle animal on all of those skills, and would when there was something with one in, would just like try to befriend them. And we have a list of all of those that he was gathering. That was just sort of one of the things that he was doing throughout. The familiars include, I guess, famously from Lustone's Pathfinder Society guide, that Iron Road is going to get a Dwemer cat. So spoilers, but also if you've read Lustone's Pathfinder Society guide, it's probably not super shocker. And that's who we've got. So they're all called in as special agents to Pathfinder Venture Captain Sheila Hydemark's manor in Magnamar, the city of monuments, in Varisia, the country of... There's Rune Lords and lots of other adventure paths here, but also definitely Rune Lords.
So we had played in the Race for the Rune Carved Key interactive special by this point. And so in fact, we had played it fairly recently. So one of the things we were talking about is sort of Sheila Hydemark's behavior in that interactive special and her whole like, hey, so let's go after these Aspis people. I don't care.
We decided to not have her be as evil as in Race for the Rune Carved Key.
And more like how she was in every other adventure.
Yes.
So I had her, for the purpose of my canon in this particular game, I had it be the case that Sheila Hydemark had been temporarily replaced by a doppelganger who was the one who was being Sheila Hydemark in Race for the Rune Carved Key.
Who may have been involved with the Cult of Lisala.
Yeah, who was involved with the Cult of Lisala.
Was trying to get the key.
Yeah, exactly. This is not canon.
Canon!
I proposed this idea to John Campton, that I told him I had done that, and he was not amused, so that did not become canon. But it was canon in our game, so that's what we ran with. So you guys were all called to the to Highmark Manor, and so this version of the PCs were fairly fresh recruits to the Pathfinder Society. They hadn't really been on missions before, like you do for level 1. And
these were versions of these characters who didn't go on the other missions.
Yes,
they're new,
right.
They're level 1, but they were chosen because, since they were new but seemed talented, that they wouldn't be noticed, because the way Linda played this off, and I'm not sure it was all exactly in here, but it sort of is that Sheila was worried, partially because of the doppelganger stuff and other infiltrations that happened in recent Pathfinder Society seasons with the Shadow Lodge and other things like that, of moles for the Aspis Consortium and other groups that want to get these artifacts she's about to ask us to get. So she specifically picked people that she knew could do well, but that were low level, so people wouldn't have heard about this, and then told us that we needed to sign on a confidentiality agreement, basically, that we weren't going to tell anyone else what she's having us do, because the last thing she wants is to clue in the Society's rivals into this hunt, which already is going to be a dangerous one. And so that's the idea, is that we're a super secretive team that was designed to go unnoticed. That's why she didn't bring better Pathfinders.
One of the most classic excuses for why are you having a first
That's
level
right.
PC do this one that we have used very heavily in Pathfinder Society in general. So when you guys all arrived there, Sheila was having a meeting with another Pathfinder, Karaya Asmaran, and she needed you to wait while she finished that meeting, and so she handed it off to you a little Thessalonian puzzle.
I mean, she also kind of wanted to test us. It wasn't just be like, I don't have time, do this Thessalonian puzzle.
No, but she was in the middle of a meeting, so she wanted to test you guys by saying, like, okay, I'll give you a little puzzle and see if you can figure out the trick behind this.
Yep. Sheila is a powerful monk who looks like a spellcaster, because that's just what outfit she wears. Mm-hmm. Possibly to trick people into thinking she's not a monk. Whereas Karaya is a ranger who is one of the leading experts on the Darklands, and an incredibly abrasive and off-putting personality. One of those characters who's described as being as like having low charisma while looking attractive and just having a really bad personality. She is a half elf, I believe. She uses like a Darklands Aklis in one hand and maybe a bastard sword in the other. It's a very distinctive.
It's a very
distinctive
style. Two-weapon fighting style.
Yeah.
So you guys were handed the puzzle box, and when when you solve the puzzle box and open it up, then it unleashed two gremlins on you.
That's right.
So it was a, hey, figure out this puzzle and then fight these monsters little challenge for you guys.
Yep. So we were able to solve the puzzle, and then we basically talked down the gremlins instead of fighting them, using Aryan Rhodes' knowledge of Fey languages and cultures. And then we presented our results to Sheila, and she was pleased by this, and basically told us that we're on a giant hunt for these seven pieces of an artifact that might be able to protect if another Rune Lord comes, because this AP Rise of the Rune Lords has happened canonically, and a Rune Lord came, and the society is worried. All of our party members were not so keen on necessarily combining a giant artifact because it could do something bad, but Sheila was like, well, but it could do just something good and defend us, and either way, if you think it's bad to combine it, we should have the pieces so the Aspis Consortium doesn't combine it.
Yeah.
So
she said that she had an informant in Magnamar, one of many Van Kaskerkins of the infamous or famous Van Kaskerkin family, Natalia Van Kaskerkin, had been working as an informant. At this point, Natalia had sent a cryptic message that her Skarni-affiliated gang was about to discover something that would be super interesting to the society, that was super Thessalonian, and then she ran off with the item, and she never came back and reported it. That's right. So
just like most Pathfinder contacts, she never came back or reported it.
Yeah, so the PCs at this point didn't know the full story of what was behind this. They just knew that that Natalia said, "Hey, Hydebark, I've got something really interesting you'll really like," and then just vanished. So she wanted the PCs to figure out what was up with her.
Ah, that's right. We didn't know it was that giant artifact yet.
Yes.
So to get started with that, we decided that we were going to. She was part of a Skarni-affiliated gang called the Tower Girls, but then she left it and ran away from them and from Sheila and from everybody for some reason, and just went dark.
Yeah.
So
she told you guys, you asked her, like, hey, what do you know about where she might be? And she said, well, I've heard rumors that there's Nidalee slavers that are abducting people in the middle of the night, or maybe she got picked up by the guard because she was doing something illegal.
Yeah.
Or
Sheila didn't know where to look, basically, and that is true. We did not find Natalia right away. The first thing we did after opening the box was check out on that Nidalee slavers, because that seemed like that could easily have been what happened, is that she could have been taken in by the Nidalee slavers. So we tried our best to follow that lead on the Nidalee slavers, but it turned out that there were not Nidalee slavers.
Yeah, it turned out that there was a sorcerer that had basically put out that lead because he had put out that lead and ceded it to the Pathfinder Society because he wanted to capture some Pathfinder agents to ransom them to the Aspis Consortium. And then he paid a bunch of agents to spread these rumors about Nidalee slavers, just hoping that he can could get some upstart Pathfinders to come in and explore things.
That's right. But on the way towards finding this guy, I think we dealt with someone named Fenster the Blight, who was a contact.
Yeah, Fenster the Blight was one of the contacts.
We may have actually gone to the Nidalee slaver person first.
I think you went to the Nidalee slaver person first.
So we were able to find where this fake guy was, but we also basically this guy Plutovark, the sorcerer, we mercilessly mocked his plan throughout the entire battle of how stupid of a plan it was to specifically try to get Pathfinders to attack him.
Because you guys were like a small group of first level Pathfinders. Like you're the weakest Pathfinders around.
And he was just one third level sorcerer. He didn't even. I don't think he even had backup.
He didn't have backup. He was
Linda leveled him up for the AP.
Because you had a slightly larger group.
And it wasn't all the way up that you would do it, but you just usually level things up.
Yeah, so like I leveled him up to a level 4 sorcerer, so it's like at least
he did have second
level spells, but still it's like, what am I gonna do? Like, glitter dust, color spray. Am I going to win this fight against all of you guys? No? Okay.
Yeah, it's tricky.
Yeah, he did not win this fight.
So we captured Plutovark and sent him to jail, and we questioned him, and we were able to figure out basically that he had there was almost no redeeming value to what we had done with Plutovark. He was an Aspis, but the Aspis themselves disavowed him. When they went to Mayfair Sloan, who's the head of Braun's house in
it's like, what about this guy?
They were like, no, this guy sucks. No, we're not. We're disavowing him. You guys can do whatever you want. We're not behind this. We were trying to lower our aggression with this society at the moment. Just what is his thing?
What even is his thing?
We were like, at least maybe his plan made sense if you assumed that like the Aspis Consortium made him do it, but like they didn't even want him to.
It's like we didn't even want him to do this. And by the way, there's a bounty out on him for the guards. So if you want to get some easy money, you can turn him in.
That's right.
Get rid of this jerk.
Because people thought there was a real Nihilist slaver.
Yeah.
And so they put out a bounty.
Yeah. Because they didn't want this rando causing trouble. If they're gonna cause trouble, they want it to be trouble. They cause it on purpose.
That's right. So then we managed to find out by talking to the guards when we brought in Plutovark, and there was like Cassidy is the name of like the guard captain.
Yeah.
Who's also in the one of the standalone little free RPG adventures, like that's like the something Dawn Dawn of the Scarlet Sun, something like that.
Yeah.
So she was happy that we brought in Plutovark and for the bounty and gave us some tips, which included telling us about Fencer the Blight, if I recall
Fencer
correctly.
the Blight. She told you about Fencer the Blight.
She also mentioned some disappearances.
There were some other disappearances
that made them think there were real Nihilist slavers, maybe, but this guy didn't have them, and we questioned him. He didn't kidnap anybody. He was going to take the Pathfinders, but he was not behind the kidnappings.
Yeah, but what she did say is that there were a lot of people who had disappeared, and then they were found later. And they were found later, and they had amnesia, and they were living out on the streets, and they weren't really sure what was going on or how they had gotten to that point.
Very, very sketchy situation. So, we decided to thank Cassidy for the information and to go check out this Fencer the Blight fellow. I mean, his name didn't sound very promising, but you never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, well, Fencer the Blight was somebody who was very, he wasn't not necessarily the most pleasant person. He has a tendency to just claim that anything that someone did that anything that happened that might make him seem tough or whatever, like, oh yeah, I did the disappearances, I did whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And he was one of the people who had actually witnessed what was going on and not been taken seriously by the true perpetrators. He talked about seeing blue dwarfies skulking around in the shadows.
Mm-hmm. We actually got a lot of information from him. We figured out it was probably Darrow that were dealing some of these problems.
Yes.
We found out more about the Tower Girls that Natalia was working for, and what the deal was with Natalia and where she's been lurking around. But eventually, like, it just seemed like, even though we didn't think he was really doing the kidnappings, that he was murdering people or something. He was clearly, like, also very diseased.
Yes.
Like, heavily diseased, living where he currently was, and was possibly murdering people. So we decided to, like, Cassidy seemed like a pretty reasonable person, so we decided to let her sort out Fencer the Blight. And
yeah.
So even after he gave us what we needed, we KO'd him with like a color spray or something, or maybe he was able to only be stunned by that. Or no, maybe it was the sleep spell because that's an enchantment. We did something to knock him out
with something, and then and then brought him into the guards.
We brought him into the guards.
He did keep claiming that he was responsible for doing a bunch of terrible things.
He sure did.
He might have done that.
He sure did.
Did he actually do any of those things?
No.
As it turns out, no. But still.
We didn't want to leave him on the street when he said that he did all of those things. Yeah. So we decided not to. We decided, now we knew where Natalia was. Like, it was concerning about the Darrow, but that's not our job to do. But we gave a tip to Cassidy about that it was probably Darrow when we handed in Fenster. And we decided to head to Natalia's amazing palace from which she shall conquer the universe.
Yes. So the PCs had figured out where Natalia's hideout was. It was certainly a building that was far from its prime, covered in mildew and scorch marks, and structurally intact is about the best thing you can say for that place. And it was right near the sea as well. And Natalia herself was holed away up in the rafters of this building, and she had but as the PCs were coming into this, they ran into some other members of the Tower Girls, Natalia's gang, who were not best pleased that Natalia had just up and abandoned them.
That's right. So that was led by Ayala.
Yeah,
right?
Ayala.
Ayala, who is like a whip fighter or ranger type situation, and she was here to go after Natalia.
Yeah.
So fortunately for her, since she and her team were there, but they weren't sure if they could take.
She had set Tersha, her second, to engage with you first.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Ayala's the leader. She's the Ayala is something else. Tersha is the whip fighter.
Yeah, Tersha is the whip fighter. Ayala is the were-rat.
Yeah, it's a secret. Yeah, Tersha the whip fighter was here, and so we met with Tersha. And Tersha, I think she didn't have a lot of backup, and there were a lot of people that were in there.
She had a few.
Just a few Tower
She had
Girls.
a few basic mooks with her.
Yeah, but it was her lucky day. It was her lucky day because some of the new prospective Tower Girl recruits, plus their porter, Memory of Dreams, Tower Girls are all female gang, but our group is actually 4 women and 1 man. So these 4 prospective recruits were also here to figure out what's going on with Natalia and to punish her or see if she could be brought back to the fold. And we indicated that we determined that she may have been possessed by the magic item she had, and we're gonna figure it out. We could take care of it and report back to Tersha. So instead of fighting Tersha, we convinced Tersha that we would do her work for her, and we're somewhat obsequious, is and you'll please rate us well on our mission so that we can join the Tower Girls, because the people we talked to said that it might be difficult for us and we'd really have to prove ourselves to you, so we want to really do the best possible job on this.
Yes.
So Tersha kind of liked that. So she decided to send us in, and even if we died, we would weaken Natalia's defenses or whatever. So we went in after Tersha and her people left, and we went in, and sure enough, as some of our rumors had indicated, Tersha had even told us some things, that Natalia had definitely, seemed to have found this item, and then, wound up basically just losing her mind and becoming a megalomaniac and leaving. So realizing that she's a megalomaniac, we came in very obsequiously, even more obsequiously by a lot than we were with Tersha. And we're we've heard the great Natalia, soon to be Queen Varisia, is here, and we want to join her army of conquest. And so what we found there was that there were just some goblins.
Yeah, there was a bunch of goblins
that were throwing poo, I think.
Yeah. There were poo-throwing goblins on
I mean,
the
they didn't
first
throw
floor.
poo at us because
Yes,
we
no,
were
they
joining
didn't.
her.
That's true.
But there was like this catwalk on an upper floor where the ranged people could attack from down below, and they would have cover, and it was very interesting. And so, yeah, we convinced Natalia to have us join her crew, and she told us her plans and what she wanted to do and how she was going to conquer all of Erissia from her palace. And
you guys were like, that's amazing, my
that's
queen,
great,
etc., etc.
we just kind of went along with her completely until we got a chance to steal the Shard of Pride from her, which we then stole the Shard of Pride. At which point, she was suddenly not like that. But Cordelia, who wound up with the Shard of Pride, was starting to get on her own way towards becoming a megalomaniac, even more than most Taldans. But sure enough, Natalia came back to her senses at that point. She realized that she no longer was the Empress of the universe, and it was like, oh my gosh, what has happened? And she kind of explained some of the situations to us about what happened and what the shard like made her do, or what had become of the situation. So we told her that what we had said to Tersha, and that Sheila Hydemark wanted Natalia to still be a Pathfinder agent who was within the Tower Girls, so that we were going to help her repair her links with the Tower Girls for now. As long as because Natalia said the Tower Girls thought that they might be able to find more of these.
Yeah.
As well. So we were gonna help her repair her legs. We are gonna get ourselves into the Tower Girls as well for bringing her back, while also getting the shard to Sheila for study. With Cordelia maybe not quite convinced that that's exactly what we were gonna do. Because she was starting to go
think that
on her
maybe
own.
instead she should be the leader.
She hadn't been fully affected by it, but yeah, she was like,
starting to.
"Why should I'm the daughter of a Marquise?
Why should I listen to Sheila?
She wasn't quite a Marquise yet at level 1. Why should I listen to Sheila Hydemark? I should be in charge of this expedition." But we got back to Sheila, and she realized what this was, and that's when she was like, "Oh, we can put it together to make a giant explosion." And possibly defend against Rune Lords, and she got us officially onto the team at that point. I think, Linda, that you also had her know a little more about that these might be the shards from the beginning than the standard default.
Yeah, she does know. She does know. It did say that she knew some more things, but that maybe she was a little more evasive in the beginning. And I had her give you some more information to help.
She gave us more than she was supposed to at the beginning, and I think may have told us about the shards because we were skeptical of her due to the race for the rune-carved key.
Yes.
Basically, that's how it went down. So, but Sheila decided that she knew that this might be the problem, and she had brought an iron stone that, when slotted into the Shard of Pride, makes you not go complete megalomaniacal into Pride. You just are a little bit overconfident, and you get a bonus on like all your skills and a bunch of ridiculously good stuff.
Yes.
So,
so that was very helpful.
That was very good. So that's what we did.
Now, one of the other things about this shard and all of the other shards is that when you put in the correct iron stone to awaken them, they give the person who's holding them a vision that tells you where sort of the next shard in the sequence around the Sahedron is located. Mm-hmm. And they don't give you exact locations, but
they don't show you
enough.
The room. They kind of zoom out into a macro so that you can see the whole building. And it showed us like this part of the bridge, the Ire span that is in Magnamar, from the outside, that also Natalia was saying that's where the Tower Girls' hideout was, more or less. So, we figured out that, the Tower Girls were right that they might be able to find more of this stuff. They were sitting on the next one, or very close to.
Yeah.
That was good with us, because we had already built ourselves a way into the Tower Girls, and multiple, because of Natalia rejoining them and us showing our stuff to Tersha. And so Sheila just sort of sent us forward and was like, yeah, go get the next one. Sounds like you already have a plan for that.
So you were able to go out on a boat into the pillar called the Crow.
Yep. The Crow is just the name that the Tower Girls gave to this particular pillar of the bridge, which it's not just like a solid pillar. The pillars have like dungeons on the inside that they had been using as their base.
Yeah,
and that's
they're
sort of what
they're
it is.
massive square pillars.
It's in the same way that this is a bridge that it got cracked at one point, and like hundreds of these horrible spider monsters came out and attacked the city because they've been like on the interior of the bridge. So there's like warrens of weird situations.
Yeah, if you've seen like the art pieces of Magnemar, and you see like the giant bridge, the giant broken bridge heading off into the distance, that's this thing.
Yeah. So yeah, we made it, and we reported to Tertia about the situation that we had brought back. We got back Natalia. The item is what drove her to this. It was a cursed item. We said we were able to remove the curse which destroyed the item. But that it basically just curses you to think that you're in charge of things.
Honesty was not the favorite approach of this party.
But that we managed to get her back, and she's sorry she was under this effect, and that so Tertia said that that she thought that we should join, but really the only one who can decide that for sure is actually Ayala, who's the leader of the group. And we were very, very happy to be led directly to Ayala for a private meeting, because that is what we wanted to do anyway.
So you went past a large number of encounters with various groups of 1d3 Tower Girls.
We talked to them and learned their names.
Yeah,
and
you
figured out about them.
Yeah, you had conversations with them. I created personalities for them because you were then joining the Tower Girls.
Like the one who was often cooked for them or whatever. And
exactly.
we talked to all of them and got along pretty well with them, and then we got into the room with Ayala, and so we had our audience for her to decide what she thought of us, and also like she might turn us into afflicted were-rats potentially, which some of them considered to be like a blessing of Ayala when she bit them, and because she's a natural were-rat and she can afflict people. So it turns out that unlike some of the other people in the group, Ayala was not quite as impressed with us because she wanted that magic item, and our story was that we destroyed the magic item. And she was pretty high at skills and somewhat not quite penetrated all of our BS, but some of it. And
she could tell that you weren't being fully...
She was pretty evil as well, and just... she was a problem, and she clearly wasn't going to go along with what we were doing. So, but we still managed to talk to her for a long time and learn a lot about like her personality and her voice patterns and movements and kind of what she was like.
Because she was trying to gather information from you to figure out who you really were and what you were up to. So she talked to you for a while.
That's right. And so once we had those vocal patterns and all those other things down with Ayala, we attacked her, defeated her, hid her unconscious body, which we later sent to jail. And then Aryan Road replaced Ayala with herself. Just to make sure we didn't have to deal with people who knew Ayala for a very long time. One thing that we had discovered before going in to meet with Ayala was there's this door that Ayala hadn't been able to solve that was made of a weird metal that like burns or freezes you when you touch it. So it's bad to even try to touch it to do the puzzle. And it was a puzzle door of some kind. And while we were glancing at it, Cordelia was like 90-some% sure that she had solved it. So, Ayala, who was actually Arya, comes out with the rest of our group and an illusion of Aryan Road that was just kind of a silent image that was walking along with us so that we didn't like lose a party member for some reason. And we go up to that door, which was very close to Ayala's room. Cordy does solve the puzzle and was correct at what the solution to the puzzle was. And the door opens. They've been trying to get in there to search for stuff. And Ayala, quote Ayala, says to like the one Tower Girl, or one or two who were there, who were like mooks, and were the only people we had to fool, not Tertia. It's like, I'm going in with these people to check out this dungeon. And, or no, No, that's not right. She didn't go in with us.
Yeah.
She went in herself.
Yes.
She says, I'm going in by myself to check out this dungeon. If I don't come back, or it's like, until I get back, Natalia is now in charge. And they're like, well, not Tertia. It's like, no, Natalia is in charge.
Mm-hmm. Tertia wasn't happy about this, but
that's what Ayala said.
Ayala said it, so...
Right?
Yeah.
And so Ayala never came back. She, eventually, Natalia ordered our party to go in and search for Ayala because it had been too long, that she'd been gone.
And as loyal Tower Girls...
Tower Girls, of course we're going to listen to Natalia. I mean, that's who Ayala said was in charge, right? So we went down there, and unfortunately, we discovered that Ayala hadn't made it.
Oh, no.
But at least she had put Natalia in charge before she went, who was a Pathfinder Society contact. So now the Pathfinder Society is in control of the Tower Girls, and we, who in turn have control of this dungeon, and they are basically defending the entrance to it in case we have issues going into this dungeon. So that's pretty good. We've got a good infrastructure for dealing with this dungeon. So we're going into the dungeon.
Was the bat swarm in this area the bat swarm, the famous bat swarm, or was that later?
The bat swarm that was in the dungeon is
in
the famous
dressing room?
Is a famous bat swarm. However, there was also before that a spider swarm, 2 giant amoebas, and a giant water spider.
Yes.
And a centipede swarm and 6 skeletons. So we did kill a spider swarm, 2 giant amoebas, a giant water spider, and a centipede swarm during this time, because there were multiple floors of this dungeon.
That's right.
Some of which had mites in them. And we did kill some of those mindless vermin because they were immune to enchantments and they could not be dissuaded by any means. We killed as few as we could because we befriended the mites because they too were connected to the Fae. They come from the gremlins. And Aryan Road managed to convince the mites that she was a Fae goddess that they should worship. This in turn meant that we didn't have to fight any more of the vermin. In fact, they were on our side at that point.
Very helpful.
Because that was good because they controlled one of the upper levels of the dungeon. But then we went deeper into the dungeon where we found...
Including the King Zuga, who
Zuga.
I really love because he's wearing a bronzish colored bracer as a crown.
That is totally his crown. King Zuba became a worshiper of Aryan Road.
Yes.
Which, you could have a worse choice for someone to worship, I guess. And we went down to the lowest floor, which was, swarming with... It actually had a lot of, ancient Thessalonian stuff down there. And it had pictures that were still fresh after all this time, that gave more information of
there were a few...
Lord Erlasnest.
Before you made it down there were also, some skeletons and some other, basic...
was that the 6 skeletons?
That was, the skeletons were on
Okay, we killed 6 skeletons on the upper floor. But when we made it to the bottom floor, it was like all summoned extraplanar beings were down there. So that's pretty much what there was. There was some Erlasmus art, which Sheila's husband, Knaven Heidbarg, really wanted the art. There's a thing in the, one of the interior covers, there's Knaven wants this art, and we got Knaven some art that he wanted. He was very happy.
That was actually a bit of a meme in this adventure because in the inside front cover there are sort of missions faction missions, shall we say, that the PCs get from a variety of people. Getting them from Knaven makes a lot of sense, but getting them from...
the mayor saying that the missing people that's a real quest.
Yeah, those both made a lot of sense, but later on, it was definitely, it was
there would be things Sabria
Pathfinder
Casmarin, or whatever her name, or not Casmarin, Sabria Calmarain.
Calmarain, yeah.
The leader of the market is I've heard you're going on this secret mission to this, to the Lady's Light. Maybe while you're there, do this trade deal. And so Linda just... as an homage, made them up as if they were faction missions for our characters.
Yeah.
For some kinds of she's like, oh, okay, well, you're in the exchange. So the exchange, Akira Al-Hakam wants you to work with Sabia Kalmarain, who is also a Macalishite in this area, and is in charge of the market of sales, which is a major, major market in this area. And that's why you have to do this thing.
Yeah. So I made them old-style faction missions.
That's right. So in case you're wondering where I'm like, oh, that's where the 6 skeletons are. We have a list of everything we killed up through part of part 3. And so I know that we killed 6 skeletons because we almost didn't kill anything.
But that was also the floor with the bat swarm where Memory of Dreams befriended a bat named Batty Bat.
That's correct. We did not kill the bat swarm, but we knocked the bat swarm out. And Memory of Dreams befriended one of the bats from the bat swarm named Batty Bat. And that was Batty Bat was Memory of Dreams' first animal friend.
And
he wanted to use that plus like speak with animals abilities that some other people had to try to see if the bat could help us learn more about the area.
Mark played Mark played the Batty Bat song from Sesame Street,
and Linda didn't know what Batty Bat was from.
I did not know, and this triggered like continual giggle fix that are of the likes of which you've seen in the Minotaurian episode. It was basically that. And was actually the start for me to learn more about bats and why I really got into loving bats as animals. So
Linda loves bats. It's all thanks to this one bat encounter.
Swarm encounter.
Yes, it's all thanks to the bat encounter in that dungeon.
Yeah.
But yes, so let me see. The list of Memory's friends, yes, Batty Bat. Batty Bat knows the deliver, fetch, heal, seek, get help, Sheila or Cassidy, and flee commands.
We made a list of what commands all of Memory's friends knew throughout
That's correct.
Throughout the campaign.
That's very important.
How else are you going to keep
Batty Bat is someone that was trained to go find Sheila or Cassidy in case we got screwed up.
Yes.
He's a very friendly bat who was one of our new friends from the Bat Swarm. On that lower floor, though...
there was like these nasty abyssal larvae, which like this...
The nasty abyssal larva is one of the things that I think that we...
You may have avoided it.
Yeah. But we did kill some of the things that were down here. Because ultimately, in the end, there were 2 factions down here on the bottom floor. They were both from hell because it turned out that there was like this little maze in the southeast corner that can be set by conjurers to any plane, and then you can sort of like do summonings from that plane, but it had been like locked in hell and slightly open for millennia, and so a bunch of devils and things had come out into the dungeon. And there were 2 distinct factions. There was Lord Baz, who was that Zebub, which is a type of accuser devil. They are like babies with giant fly eyes.
Yeah, and fly bodies.
And then there was
the suzerain of Little Erebus.
The imp. Who is a little imp. And they each had like some servitors. And we basically played both sides off against each other until in the end, like we told the suzerain we would help against Lord Baz that we were hunting the suzerain, that we would take some of his minions, and then we killed off all of Lord Baz's minions while pretending to hunt the suzerain, and eventually we decided that the suzerain was pretty harmless, whereas Lord Baz was actually, seemed like pretty evil, so we actually defeated Lord Baz, and we left the suzerain in charge, because he agreed to swear fealty to the PCs. So we defeated Lord Baz, and we killed him.
He thought you guys seemed like easy marks to tempt.
Mm-hmm. Lord Baz did, but we did not listen to Lord Baz.
Yes.
We also killed 2 Nuparibos and a Hellhound during that time. But we didn't kill anything else on that floor, and we managed to...
You got the Clockwork Servant to be on your side.
Yes, there was a Clockwork Servant that we found down there, which, so Memory of Dreams has a bunch of animal friends. Cordelia has a bunch of construct
friends. Yes.
And it starts with Fixie, the Clockwork Servant that we found here.
Yeah, we named him Fixie.
His name was Fixie. And we found these Clockwork Servants, and Cordelia was fixing them up and just getting them all to join the party. And, there's a reason there's Cordelia's construct key is an item. She does some things with constructs. So that wasn't even something that was intended as a part of her character, but
it developed.
She wound up caring for these constructs, and so she wound up with Fixie, the Clockwork Servant. Just shortly after Memory gained Batty Bat. We have a list of all of them that we have kept here. So at that point, we had mostly cleared out the entire bottom floor by like tricking them against each other.
There was a variety of the, like you said, you fought some of the imps and the Nuparibos, or imps and Nuparibos and Lemurs, and you.
We didn't actually fight the Lemurs or the Abyssal Larva because we got the other devils killed all things for us. We also befriended some trapped fire elementals that were inside of a fire elemental circle by using the Ignan language, and we were able to figure out a way to help them out, and they didn't attack us. But we personally killed 2 Nuparibos, Lord Baz, and a Hellhound. But the other evil creatures there like basically took each other out.
Yes.
And so we decided not. Also, I think that there was like an intelligent Lemur that had somehow developed intelligence and was cowardly and didn't want to fight anything, and we did not kill that Lemur.
Yeah. And you also didn't kill. I think you also didn't kill the Reef Claws.
We did not. They are intelligent creatures. People kill them for food far too often. We did not kill the Reef Claws. We did speak a language in common with the Reef Claws, and so we communicated with them, and just went and got a shield or something that was there.
Yeah, there was totally a shield.
I know, because I think I replaced it with like a magic shield from the playtest.
Yes, it was a +1 buckler in the original.
That makes sense. So at that point, we had cleared out this dungeon more or less, and it turns out that this dungeon was not going to didn't contain the shard, but it did lead to yet another dungeon.
Yes, there was this weird like suspicious pool that happened to have in a nearby room some scrolls of water breathing.
That was very suspicious, Linda.
And
very suspicious indeed.
So you were able to find passage to yet another little dungeon.
That's right. And in the new dungeon, we found, if I recall correctly, is this where we found the guy who had like turned into a ghoul, and he didn't want it, but he's not all the way evil yet.
Yeah, I think he was here. Yeah, Lockerbie.
Yes, he didn't want his wife to see him as like a ghoul. Or a Lacedon, but he had not lost himself completely to that. So we managed to team up with him, and we promised we'd get stuff to his wife, but that also we would try to find a way to turn him back from being an undead. Mm-hmm. He told us about some of the traps that were there, as well as the fact that there were some monsters.
Being able to get his assistance was one of the few things that one of the few groups or people that this adventure assumes that you will diplomacy or bluff into doing something. Whereas a lot of the others is just like, yeah, you're making a completely.
He told us about these 2 like super cave moraines, and Linda had been buffing things that we fought, so that also meant they were buffed if we befriended them.
Yes.
So these 2 cave moraines, managed to befriend them and train them. They became named Flotsam and Jetsam, the cave moraines. And they eventually learned Heal, Seek, Attack ×2 so that they can attack unnatural creatures, Watch, and Detect. Watch and Detect were important tricks for them to learn because cave moraines actually have like blind sense or something, or blind sight.
One of those. They
have a really good sense, which made them worth bringing even in some later level dungeons so that they would be able to detect for us in case something was around. So we got Lockerbie, we got Flotsam and Jetsam.
And you knew because of Lockerbie, one of the big dangers that was going to be ahead here for you, which was the all these patches of Cytalesh fungus, which emit spores that deal wisdom damage, and if you wisdom gets low enough for them, then you can have some serious psychological problems.
That's right. So also, at some point during this time, I think that we had gone on for long enough that we wanted to rest.
Yes.
So we came out through the sewers, and Linda threw some random encounters / like hooks and backstory things from the area. We also just wanted to know, how does this connect up? Because the Darrow are obviously kidnapping people. just in advance.
Yeah.
So we had to retreat.
You decided to go through the sewers as opposed to going back the way you had.
That's correct. We wanted to see how it hooked back up. So she found some like side quests that were in there, and we wound up fighting like 2 pickpockets and a storyteller from the NPC Codex, who we sent to jail.
You ran into a bandit group.
They attacked us, and we couldn't trick them. And 2 chokers, who we also sent to jail. I don't know what they did with the chokers in jail, but we did send them to jail.
Yeah, you definitely got some funny looks from the city guard. It's like, oh yeah, you've apprehended this group of bandits, you've apprehended this, you've apprehended these.
But the chokers had been choking people who were in this, in the sewers. It's like, these chokers have been choking people, so what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Send them to jail. So, and we rested, and we came up with our plan for how we were going to trick the Darrow. Mm-hmm. So how did we do that? Well, Aryan Road transformed into a Darrow. Not just any Darrow.
You might have figured by this point that they've leveled up a little bit from all these adventures.
Yep. So Aryan Road transformed into a Darrow Magister-looking Darrow, who just seemed to be like this great scientist Darrow. And she made it so that all the other people kind of look like they were like hopped up on Cytalesh and were her drugged minions that she was bringing in for experimentation. And so they all went down to the Darrow with this kind of con. The con game of that she was from we figured out what like one of the nearest Darrow settlements would be. To the area,
and you might
in
think
the Darklands.
like, you know,
we talked to Karaya because she knows about the Darklands.
And you might think, you know, this might seem a little far fetched, but of all the groups that they've dealt with, like one of the things that was pretty consistently true with their opponents in this adventure was not being good at sense motive.
Ayala was. That's why she had to go.
That's why she had to go. But pretty much, and that was doubly true for Darrow because. Because poor, like, basic Darrow's sense motive bonus is a penalty.
Yes, it is.
So
their sense motive is real bad. It's real bad, everybody.
That's, like, one of their things.
They're so bad at sensing motive. So we figured out what the name of, like, the nearest Darrow settlement. And so Aryan Road was, like, this Darrow Magister who was from this settlement who had come up with some really cool new ideas of what to do and just... wanted to join their collective because she had heard that they were good researchers in certain fields. It was buttering them up somewhat while also making it clear that she knew a lot of things.
That's challenging with these 3 because there were 3 Darrow here who were all bitter rivals and believed that each of them is completely the best. And
that was actually what made it easier. So what we did was we convinced...
Well, it was more complicated, at least.
It was more complicated, but easier.
You were able to use it for your advantage.
Because there was one who was in charge named Atlasia. And then there are 2 that were, like, slightly...
Katamis and Portioke.
Slightly not as good as Atlasia. And Atlasia wasn't really in charge of them, per se, but she was more powerful. Katamis and Portioke. And if I remember correctly, Portioke was a female Darrow who, like, liked to use enchanted... human servants, whereas Katamis was the one who believed in, like, weird flesh golems was the way to go, and that they had a huge rivalry about that, and Atlasia was more like...
Portioke was like he was like the alchemist who was doing, who was, like, doing experiments with humors, and Atlasia was Atlasia is the woman who did, more stuff with...
Okay, so I got it mixed up.
But regardless, yeah.
So maybe Portioke was the one who was on the upper floor, and Katamis and Atlasia were the 2 who were always figuring on the lower floor.
Portioke and Katamis were on the upper one as well.
Oh, okay. They were all together.
Katamis was more about, like, decay and golems.
Was that the golem guy?
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
Then Portioke was the one who was about,
So we managed to get them into a sort of a rivalry fight with each other over which one of them would have Aryan Road's new research assistants help them. And she just completely took those problems that were running between them and just, like, kind of egged it on without making it obvious that she was just trying to do that. So they wound up trying to prove themselves by having all of their experiments fight each other at the same time. And then we mopped up the rest of that encounter and sent them all to jail. Because
why not?
Why not? That's what you do. Oh, that's what it was. Magister Chrysum was the one who was actually in charge. There were 3 who were arguing, and Magister Chrysum or something.
Yeah. That's right. Magister Chrysum was the one. That's why.
I knew there was someone who was on a different floor who was...
Yeah, Magister Chrysum was that one.
Yes. There were 3 who were arguing below, and then Magister Chrysum...
With her homunculi.
Yes. So we also, at that point, after they had done that, Aryan Road pretended to be Atlasia, who was telling Magister Chrysum that there was a problem about the other 2 getting into a fight, and tricked Chrysum to leave her area with her homunculi and other backup and get defeated by our party.
Yes.
At that point, we discovered that the Darrow, there was like a way you could go up some other weird set of stairs from the Darrow. You could go down and get into the Darklands, but you could go up and get to the place where our actual thing that we wanted was.
Yes, the Sahedron Shrine.
But in there were 2 of those weird spider things that I mentioned coming out of the bridge. They're called Shreezix.
Yes.
And they hate fire.
They do hate fire.
They hate it so much.
They're afraid of fire, and they're vulnerable to fire.
Yes. They're immune to a lot of things, though.
Yes.
Were they immune to mind affecting?
They're immune to mind affecting.
They're one of those things that are just like, for some reason,
You said they're
it's
immune to a lot of things. They're literally only immune to mind affecting.
Excuse me, Aryan Road thinks that's a lot of things. Okay? That's a lot of things.
It's 100%
It's
of the
100%
things that
of
Aryan Road likes to do.
Aryan Road's things. So it's a lot of things.
Yes.
So we managed to defeat the Shreezixes, but like we had no reason to kill them. They can just live. They clearly can live here without eating anything, and they probably like it here. So we just left them in that room and took the second shard.
And with that, the Shard of Greed was in your hand.
Shard of Greed. It made us very, very greedy, at least momentarily, until Sheila Highmark got rid of it.
It wasn't too bad to have someone have the Shard of Greed and be a little more meticulous in picking up the treasure from the dungeon before you left.
That's right. So we handed in all the Darrow to the authorities and collected the reward for the kidnappings, which we had then solved.
Yes, you collected the reward from the Lord Mayor from the kidnappings, as well as the additional reward from Sir Canavan Highmark, the fellow venture captain, for having for reporting new art and providing illustrations and inscriptions and other things like that you had found in your journey.
That's right. And Cheb and Ugolo are in part 2, right? I think they're probably in part 2.
Yeah, we have hit the end of part 1.
So, yeah, basically that is what we did in part 1. As you can see, there were not actually very many fights in part 1. It was mostly like convincing everybody that we were come to help them, or we were somebody that they wanted to get to help them, that we had something they needed.
It was interesting because, and this is one of the things we talked about, is that having this, is that when you have a campaign with one GM and one player, there's a lot of flexibility to really just dive into role-playing things where one character might get a lot of spotlight, or where, you really don't fight things for a while, or you do something ridiculous, because you don't have to worry about balancing things out among a group. You can just completely run with these sorts of plans. So we really got a kick out of having this group.
That's right.
Of having this group use combat as a last resort.
That's right. And they made lots of friends along the way. So, shall we say bye to YouTube?
Yes, let's.
Bye, YouTube!
Bye!